Dragon Ball. The Strongest Training. Chapter 31. At this time, Klin was docked on an indigenous star to take a rest. Klin was breathing heavily. When someone is unlucky, he would choke his teeth even if he drank cold water. Klin moved 10 planets in succession, all of which were planets without atmospheres. After many rounds, I finally found that although this asteroid is a bit desolate, it still has traces of the origin of life. The universe is so vast and there are many planets with life, but most of them are desolate planets. Klin found a rock and lay down on it, gradually regaining his breath. System, View Properties, Ding. Time, 756 AD. Name, Klin. Age, 21 years old. Race, Earthling. Dimension, First level dimension, equivalent to Cat Immortal. Combat strength, 360,000, next level limit, 5 million. Potential, 4.64 million. Cultivation speed, light speed. After the battle with Nelu, his combat power increased by 10,000. Fighting is the most tempering experience. Klin saw that there were still about 800 fairy beans left, which was only enough for him to use for more than a year, and the fairy beans plantation still had it takes 6 months to officially grow into a plant, and it turns out that it will still take more than half a year. Klin couldn't help but feel worried. Ding, actually there is an energy substance under Namek, called slime. The energy of slime is 900 times that of coal at the same mass. The system suddenly said. Cow, we've come this far, and you're just saying it now. Asterisk, Klin went berserk. Do you want to be a coal digger? The system said lightly. 100 tons can be exchanged for a little energy, and the children will beget grandchildren, and the grandchildren will beget children. If you dig coal endlessly, I'm afraid it can maintain your VIP speed for a month. The system said contemptuously. Digging coal. The picture was too beautiful to imagine. Well, just pretend I didn't say it. Klin couldn't help but turn a little dark. There are still high-level energies on some planets. Isn't that better than you digging for coal? The system said again. The headquarters of the Galaxy Patrol is in the central galaxy. It seems that we have to go to the Galaxy Patrol headquarters. It is best to break into its interior. After all, the Galaxy headquarters has a very long history. Knowing the changes of many stars in the universe, we may be able to pass through the galaxy. The headquarters found a planet with high energy. Klin thought to himself. Klin stood up and prepared to teleport again. Klin couldn't help complaining that it would be better to learn the teleportation of the Adrat people, but there are always some shortcomings in both. If you can't feel the breath of the destination, you still can't reach it, and now what he learned is that he can initiate teleportation by knowing the location. With a whoosh, Klin's figure disappeared from the spot. After dozens of jumps, Klin gradually approached the headquarters of the Galaxy Patrol. As a large force, the area of the Galaxy Patrol was quite prosperous. Klin had already passed several commercial stars. Commercial stars are places where people in the universe trade. Almost there are several commercial stars under each force, developing space trade. Commercial stars are also highly technologically advanced. The closer to the center, the more powerful the defense force of the Galaxy Patrol organization became. Klin saw countless cosmic star cannons, and Klin felt a more terrifying momentum from them. I am afraid that each cannonball has an energy intensity of nearly 10,000. The Space Patrol's ability to fight the Kurdish royal family so far cannot be underestimated. If he rushes in with such a strong defensive force, he may end up being miserable. After thinking about it, Klin teleported to a commercial star. The Galaxy Patrol headquarters was set up on a separate planet. What followed were layers of a progressive defense system, and the commercial star in front of us should be the bridgehead into the Galaxy headquarters. I don't know if he understands the language. He looked at the alien, with a humanoid monster head in front of him. He found someone who looked very similar to a human and looked slightly better looking. Brother, can I ask you something? Klin asked the alien who was closer to him. The alien had some doubts and pointed at himself, asking if Klin was calling him. Klin looked happy. Can you understand? Chi 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 chi. Quack quack. The alien said as he walked towards Klin. Klin. I saw the alien take out a round spherical flying object and throw it into the air. The spherical flying object first uttered the weird language just now, and then came a sentence that Klin could understand, automatically matching the language. What do you want from me? You can call me Allens. The spherical object made a mechanical sound. But it's really a great invention. Clint quickly asked. Arones, how do you get into the Galaxy Patrol headquarters? I'm from Earth, you can call me Clint. To enter the Galaxy Patrol headquarters, you need to register at the Galaxy Patrol Management Office. Only when you make sure you are not from those evil forces can you enter. I think you are quite good looking, unlike those from the evil forces. The mechanical voice sounded again. Good looking people are popular wherever they go. I have no choice but, where is the management office? I want to enter the Galaxy Patrol headquarters. Then I'll take you there. Aaron said with a smile. Excuse me, Clint also said politely. It can be seen that Aaron's is a friendly alien. Aaron summoned an aircraft from nowhere and shouted towards Clint. Clint, come up, I will take you there. Clint nodded slightly and jumped up with a slight jump. Aaron's flew the aircraft towards the management office. By the way, Clint, what are you doing at the Galaxy headquarters? Aaron's asked curiously. Find some information and register as a Metroid warrior. Clint slowly explained. The Metroid warriors are very powerful. I heard that only those with very strict requirements for combat effectiveness, or those with special abilities, can become Metroid warriors. Hehe, I have enough fighting power, and I want to contribute my own strength to maintaining the peace of the universe. Clindu complained to himself in his heart, how could he say it smoothly like this, bang bang bang. Aaron's looked at Clint innocently at this time, his eyes filled with stars, which was very similar to the expression of a girl in her previous life when she was chasing stars. Here we are, the tallest building in front is here. Aaron said to the admiring Clint. Clint quickly jumped down and ran inside, shouting, thank you, Aaron's. The man working was a tall and mighty spaceman, who gave the impression that he was very powerful, but Clint sensed his energy. He was a strong man but only had 500 combat power. The Galactic Patrol has been powerful since ancient times. I don't know if there is a boss sitting behind the scenes. Clint thinks there is, otherwise the Kurdish king family would have destroyed the Galactic Patrol organization long ago. Hello, I wanted to register as a Metroid warrior at the Galactic Patrol headquarters. Maybe it was a military device. The spaceman understood what Krillin said immediately. Okay, if you want to become a Metroid warrior, you have to survive 50 moves in my hands, said the universe, looking at Krillin's short body. Krillin understood what he meant. It turned out that he was mocking him because he was short. He couldn't bear it. How could the people in the universe get rid of these people who judge people by their appearance? Didn't Frieza still dominate the northern galaxy? Okay, come on. Clint said calmly. It seems that if you know what is concentrated, it is all essence. Krillin followed the cosmonaut into the battle arena. Clint was too lazy to use chi, and casually made a battle pose. Earth, Clint. You can attack now. The cosmonaut looked at Clint contemptuously and said. Clint quickly waved his hand and said, no, you better come first. I'm afraid you won't have a chance later. Clint made a gesture of invitation. The cosmonaut was a little irritated, and the explosive energy rushed towards Krillin, looking quite impressive. In Clint's eyes, the movements of the cosmonaut were no different from those of a turtle crawling. When the cosmonaut was about to approach Clint leaned back slightly to avoid the attack. The cosmonaut kept waving his arms. The fist flew towards Krillin like a shadowless fist, and he dodged the attack as easily as he was walking in space. Clint moved upward and floated above the spaceman's head. Where did the little dwarf go? The cosmonaut gritted his teeth and looked around, a little angry. Hey, silly big hat, I'm here. Clint shouted from above. Who called me? Before he could react, the cosmic man felt a gust of wind coming, and he followed the wind and fell to a corner of the ground. Clint flew over and said with a smile, how's it going? Silly man, are you qualified? How do you know my name is Shadaji? Shadaji lay on the ground with a questioning expression. Clint, asterisk it's true. Stop talking nonsense, can you register me? I'm going to the Galaxy headquarters. Clint said helplessly towards Shada. No problem, sir, please come with me. Shada quickly jumped up, bent over and said to Clint respectfully. Sir, please sit down. Shada took out an unknown ore in the shape of a bench from nowhere. Clint nodded slightly and sat on it. Ding, black iron ore has been detected, containing 1 point of energy. What? That's a little bit. 100 tons of coal slime on Namek only has a little energy, how big is this? Clint couldn't help but feel happy in his heart, he really came to the right place. We'll have to ask Shadahui later. Clint thought to himself. Sir, this is a brief inspection of the information. Although it is a cumbersome process according to your strength. But this is the rule set by the Galaxy King. Please forgive me, Shada said respectfully to Clint. Shada took out a spherical object and threw it towards Clint. The scanner emitted blue light and scanned Clint in all directions. After a moment, a mechanical voice came. Carbon-based life species. Klein. Source. Northern Galaxy, Solar System, Earth. Combat strength. 50,000. Evil forces are excluded and the security level is good. What? 50,000. Is the scanner broken? Shada said with a look of disbelief. However, Shada checked the scanner several times and it showed that it was normal. When Shada confirmed that Clint really had a fighting strength of 50,000, he almost knelt down. How could such a terrifying person come to register with him? Normally, Shada would Dahu felt that a person with a combat power of 1000 was a very powerful person. You must know that even the average combat power of the Galaxy Patrol was only about 10,000. Now he was in big trouble. Shadahu couldn't help but turned pale with shock. Here. Clint. Sir, here's your pass. Shada said with a trembling voice and a somewhat panicked expression. Clint smiled. Okay, I have something else to ask you. Lord Clint, please tell me. Shada looked at Clint expectantly, thinking that there was still room for redemption. Now that he was comfortable serving Lord Clint, the previous matter had been wiped out. Clint patted the stone under his butt and said with interest, this stone looks good to me, where did you get it? Sir, this is a specialty ore on the Black Iron Star. It has ordinary energy. After being refined, it can be used as an energy source for short-distance space travel. It is usually mined and sold by the commercial stars under the Galaxy King. Shah Dahu said quickly. It's not easy now. There is a master. There is no way to rob. The patrol organization has the right to speak. If he arranges a crime for me, I won't be able to clear my name even if I jump into the galaxy. Clint thought to himself. Seeing that Clint seemed to be very interested in this kind of energy ore, Shadahu whispered tentatively and said, young man actually knows a kind of high-energy ore. Clint couldn't help but be very interested when he heard Shadahu's words, say it quickly. The younger one actually came to the galaxy headquarters following the escape of the space people. When I was a child, I lived on the Earth planet. I heard from the elders that in ancient times, we Earth planet also had masters like adults. Our Earth planet belonged to the Straw Hats. In terms of galaxies, there is a mysterious galaxy near the Straw Hat Galaxy. That galaxy often emits energy, and this energy can radiate to the surrounding nebulae. It is precisely because of the radiation of these energies that many fighting geniuses emerged in our tribe, leading us on the planet Earth to prosper for 3,000 years. However, something seemed to have happened to the nearby nebula. The legend passed down was that it experienced a big explosion. Since the big explosion, no energy has escaped, and our family has also rapidly declined. Speaking of this, Shada's eyes quickly dimmed. The more Clint listened, the more interested he became. The energy escape could actually affect a galaxy. What a terrifying energy it was. Then why did you say you escaped from trouble? Clint couldn't help but be curious. When I was a kid, our planet was still very quiet and peaceful. Although it didn't have the prosperity of our ancestors, we still lived and worked in peace and contentment under the leadership of King Tukuda. Suddenly one day, a large number of cosmic beings invaded the planet Tukuda and killed everyone. Kill my people, work my people, they control us and mine the black stones from the land for them. Shada gritted his teeth and said with hatred. Your planet also has the mysterious black stone you mentioned. Clint was a little curious. Yes, every 100 years there will be small-scale space vibrations, and this kind of black stone will fall on our planet. It has been like this since ancient times. Then why is your clan declining? Don't you have an energy source? When the energy radiation disappears and the earliest masters die, the energy is controlled by the descendants of those masters. From then on, only those people have the resources to practice. We need to pay a certain amount of black stones every year, even though this is, but our life is still good. But 200 years ago the evil forces of the universe invaded, and those masters fled without fighting. As the soldiers fled, we no longer had the power to resist, and the evil forces plundered and squeezed us clansmen. Shadahu showed a painful expression, but the helplessness that followed diluted the pain. Wait, 200 years ago. How old are you now? 250 years old. Affected by those energies, our ancestors' genes mutated and their lifespan became very long. However, as time went by, the lifespan began to gradually decrease. Shada explained slowly. Since then, Tugudaxing has fallen into a dark period. It's not enough to eat every day and there is heavy work. It's really miserable. Shada said sadly. Every time after work, my parents would secretly hide 2 stones for me. Every day I would practice with the help of energy stones. After 10 years, my combat power reached 300, but my parents were eventually discovered. He was imprisoned in solitary confinement by those evil aliens. After saying this, Shada fell into endless grief. Clin looked at him silently and reached out to touch his head to express comfort. After a long time, Shada raised his head and said again, fights often break out between evil forces. It seemed that there was not enough manpower that time, so many guards were transferred. I took advantage of the battle between the evil forces and the outside world to sneak out. I boarded the space merchant's spaceship and started wandering. In order to take revenge, I joined the Galaxy Patrol, but after so many years, it seems that revenge is hopeless. Shada choked with tears in his eyes. As time passed, I was weak and could not save my home planet, and no one could change the suggestions of the top management of the Galaxy headquarters, so I followed the trend and became a registrar. Krillin felt Shada's helplessness, just like Krillin's 10,000 strong combat power against Frieza's hundreds of millions in his previous life. Later, he got married and had children. After the martial arts tournament, he followed Goku to investigate Majin Buu and found out that he was so weak that he always wrote a suicide note before leaving. If I unfortunately die, I must find a dragon to resurrect me. How helpless Clin seemed in the face of such terrifying combat power. But Clin always did what he did. What a warrior should do is never absent. Clin comforted Shada. They were both fallen people in the world, so why did they know each other when they met? It seems that the mysterious galaxy is worth studying. The energy stone on the Straw Hat Galaxy really makes Clin a little excited. I wonder what the forces are. Clin thought to himself. Shada, do you know the name of the galaxy next to the Straw Hat Galaxy, and what are the evil forces? I remember that the clan seems to have left some legends behind. Let me think about it. Shada was lost in thought. It seems to be called the Fairy Galaxy. It seems to be called the Perseus Galaxy. That's right, Shada said loudly. The evil forces knew that there were members of the Kurdish royal family after my investigation. What? Hermes. Clin remembered that he had obtained many Hermes stones on the earth. At that time, he was surprised by the energy contained in them. The system said that they seemed to have perished hundreds of millions of years ago. Clin was obviously more interested in the Hermes. No wonder, when Shadahu brought up the black stone, that's what I should have thought about. However, the black iron stone under my butt restricted my thinking. I thought a little naturally. Clin will not give up just because he is a member of the Kurdish family. In order to gain energy, Clin must seek justice. Even if the other party is a member of the Kurdish family, isn't he Frieza? At most, there will be a curvy. Alas, it's hard to deal with his cat's problem. Clin said a little speechlessly in his heart, how can he still play when he encounters the big boss at the beginning? You still have to go, but if you are not familiar with the place, you need to find a guide. Clin looked at Shada who was feeling uncomfortable next to him. He was really a good candidate. Let's go together and save the home planet. Krillin thought to himself. Shada, do you want to go back? Go back to your home planet. Clin induced. Shadahu nodded. I even dream about it, but it won't help if I go back. The evil forces are so powerful that even the Galaxy Patrolmen dare not provoke them easily. The luster in Shadahu's eyes gradually dimmed. Clin laughed and said, I will take you to fight back. Soldiers are allowed to be afraid, but they are not allowed to retreat. Clin said to Shada, also reminding himself. Really? Are you really willing to help me fight back? Krillin is stronger than the Guardians of the Galaxy. With Krillin's help, he may be able to save the home planet. Shada's eyes shone brightly, as if hope was rising again. Shada only knew about the Kurdish royal family, and it seemed that he did not know how powerful the evil forces were. It is not surprising that few outsiders knew about Frieza's fighting power. Even Frieza's subordinate Sabo only knew how powerful the evil forces were. We know that Frieza can transform, but we don't know how much. Krillin nodded. Shada showed a happy expression and held up his hands excitedly. He originally wanted to tell this adult about the mysterious ore, but he didn't expect that he would have the opportunity to go back and save his home planet. Shada could not help but jump up. Don't worry about it now, I'll go to the galaxy headquarters first. Clint said to Shada who. Sir, let me take you there. I still have some friends after staying here for so many years. Shada said happily towards Clint. Okay, let's go. With Shada's guidance, Clint naturally entered the galaxy headquarters smoothly. The Galaxy Patrol headquarters is a huge spherical creation, which looks like an enlarged version of the space station. Many aircraft come in and out, and patrols from the Galaxy Guardians pass by from time to time. The guards are still relatively tight. To register as a Metroid warrior, you have to go to the mission hall, which is where registration and mission handover are done. Shadahu explained to Clint. The two entered the mission hall, and all kinds of cosmic beings came in and out, all of them with more than 1,000 points in combat power. Hello, this Lord Clint wants to register as a Metroid warrior, Shada said in a low voice. This lord has a combat power of 50,000. What? 50,000? The cosmonaut at work couldn't help shouting, causing the surrounding cosmos to look at Clint, but their eyes clearly didn't believe it. Shada gave the data he had just scanned to the staff who were working. When the cosmonauts saw the data, they were shocked. It turns out to be true. The cosmonaut began to rush around. He picked up the communicator with trembling hands and made a trembling voice. I am number 0.02.3, please help me call Lord Galaxy King. I am the king of the galaxy. A serious and unquestionable voice came from the communicator. Silver. Galactic King, there is an Earthling who wants to register as a galactic warrior. Earthlings. I heard Jack say that Earthlings are a very weak race, very weak. When will their technology come to the central galaxy? The Galaxy King asked in a somewhat angry tone. But, the scanner shows that he has a combat strength of 50,000. The staff was almost frightened to tears by the Galaxy King. The authority of the Galaxy King cannot be doubted. What 50,000? King Galaxy suspects that he heard wrongly. No. That's right. Impossible. Another voice came from the great warrior, Galactic Patrolman Jack. Jack quickly said to the Galaxy King, the people on Earth are weak and it is impossible to reach 50,000. Jack couldn't help but start to feel scared. Could it be the Saiyan child he spared back then? Sweat began to form on Jack's head. It's really 50,000. The staff member said again, but his confidence was a little weaker. King of the Galaxy, let me pick him up in person. It's a very important matter. If he is really an Earthling with 50,000 fighting strength, we have to treat him politely. Jack said in a panic. In fact, what he was thinking in his heart was, hurry over and communicate with him. If he is really a Saiyan, you have to pretend to be an Earthling in front of the Galaxy King, otherwise your job will be ruined. After hearing what Jack said, Galaxy King felt it made sense and nodded slightly. Jack couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when he saw the Galaxy King nodding, and wiped the sweat from his forehead. Jack arrived at the mission hall in his own exclusive aircraft, his expression slightly anxious. Many cosmic people who were waiting for the handover of the mission were a little curious when they saw Jack, the close confidant of the Galaxy King, coming over. For an Earthling to register as a Metroid warrior, there's no reason why Jack would come here in person. Could it be that he really has 50,000 combat power? Thinking of this, a short spaceman suddenly turned pale and his calves began to tremble. Today's space patrol is no different than in ancient times. Those with a combat power of more than 10,000 are important combatants of the galactic organization. They usually only perform some special tasks, and most of them are in the Guardians of the Galaxy. Most of the cosmonauts who handed over tasks in the mission hall had a combat power of around 1,000. Clint's current combat power of 50,000 naturally caused a huge shock in the mission hall. Jack's eyesight is notoriously good. Even Wukong, a billionaire boss, can't compare to Jack. Jack saw Clint from a distance, and he couldn't help but feel relieved when he saw that it was a bald boy. His tone was, fortunately, it's different from that Saiyan's hairstyle. But thinking that Clint was a big boss with 50,000 combat power, Jack couldn't help but feel a little nervous, and ran towards Clint at a high speed. You must be Mr. Clint. Jack greeted Clint respectfully. Clint looked at the space patrolman in front of him who was dressed like salted egg Superman and smiled mysteriously. Your name is Jack, I've seen you on Earth. Jack's soothing expression immediately became tense and he shouted, how is that possible? Clint then smiled. I'm afraid I admitted my mistake. You must have made a mistake. Jack said quickly, wait a minute, you made a mistake. How do you know my name? Clint didn't think too much about it. Clint just couldn't help but scare him. Clint said, take me to see the Galaxy King. Clint used his energy to explore. It seemed that he had gone too far before. Be careful, there are not very powerful people in the space patrol, so as an Earthling with 50,000 combat power, registering as a Galaxy Patrol is worthy of being personally received by the King of the Galaxy. Jack nodded worriedly. Don't worry, I've never seen you before, Jack. Clint said looking at Jack. Okay, come with me. Shada is waiting for me here. Clint turned to Shada and said. Okay Master Clint. Shada was counting on Clint to take him back. The defense of the Galaxy headquarters is really advanced. Clint couldn't help but sigh when he looked at the space cannon. However, the existence of Z warriors on the Earth is more precious than anything else. Visitors from Earth welcome you to become a glorious galactic warrior. The solemn voice of the Galactic King came. How shameless. I haven't registered yet, and now I'm a Metroid warrior. The Galaxy King can't wait to win me over. Krillin complained in his heart. Clint stepped forward and thanked the Galaxy King. Clint couldn't help but feel curious when he looked at the Galaxy King. Why are all the hidden bosses such little guys? Ha 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 ha. Clint tried his best to hold back, with a serious look on his face, replied. The Galaxy King looked at Clint and said, why did you choose to become a Metroid warrior? The Galaxy King stared at Clint seriously. Maid, why are they here? Clint began to talk seriously. I grew up listening to the story of the Metroid warriors. The extremely wise King of the Galaxy led the Galaxy warriors to defeat countless space pirates. Since then, my dream has been to become a Metroid warrior. This is too ridiculous. It's even more ridiculous than Kayu's cold joke. I don't know. Clint looked at the expressionless Galaxy King. The Galaxy King was obviously very impressed by what Clint said. The same person said these words with different effects. If his subordinates said this, the Galaxy King would definitely feel disgusted, but Clint was a master with 50,000 combat power and said it. These words naturally made the Galaxy King feel like spring breeze. Haha, Galaxy King laughed heartily. Earthlings, your choice is undoubtedly the right one. The Galaxy organization is responsible for maintaining peace in the universe. I will register you myself, the Galaxy King said loudly. I saw the Galaxy King taking out an unknown object, which was shaped like a Jengdan Vajra. He gestured blindly towards Krillin and chanted a strange spell. After a while, the Galaxy King took out a piece of equipment that looked like a watch. Pass it to Clint. Okay, this is your exclusive equipment. Clint took it casually, and suddenly a shadow appeared on the watch, with information listed on it. Metroid. Krillin. Position. Galaxy Sheriff. Task. None yet. Points. 10,000. Jack couldn't help but get a little jealous when he saw the information. After so many years of service, he was still a soldier who was a bit more special than ordinary soldiers, and Clint became the police chief when he came. Moreover, he had so many points that he only gave one when he went to Earth to perform a mission. Thousands of points. Clint looked at the information above and it seemed to be pretty good. He became a police chief. Clint smiled inwardly. In the original novel, Clint didn't become a policeman in the end. Unexpectedly, he did become a sheriff ahead of time. Points gained. Lin still knew what it was used for, but he didn't know what the purchasing power was. Clint had a happy chat with the Galaxy King for a long time, and finally took the opportunity to sneak away in the name of work and went to the mission hall again. The Galaxy King was still intoxicated by Clint's continuous flattery. If Clint saw this scene, he would definitely say with disdain, The subordinates are not talented. How to flatter the leader well is written by the subordinates. Hey hey. Krillin came to the mission hall again, but this time his identity was completely different from before, and the treatment he received was naturally inconsistent. This is the hierarchy of the galaxy headquarters. After all, in the Dragon Ball world, whose fist is stronger and who has the final say, there is no place for the weak in the world of the strong, that's how it is. Shadahu, who had been waiting for a long time, saw Klin coming out, and hurriedly greeted him, asking happily, "How is it? Sir, are you ready?" "What's done?" Klin said calmly. "Just register as a Metroid warrior." Shada continued. "Oh. It didn't work." Shada's face was full of disbelief. "How could it be impossible with your strength?" "I didn't become a soldier, but I became a police sergeant," Klin said with a smile. "Really?" Shada's face was full of excitement. People who didn't know it thought he had become the police chief. Shada's face was shocked and he stayed where he was. Klin walked out for tens of meters and shouted without turning his head, "Follow me, Shada, I'm going to the reception room to get the mission." "Oh." Shada came back to his senses and hurriedly chased after Klin. Klin browsed the tasks in the reception room. These tasks have levels, from E level to SSS level, from low to high. Most of the E-level tasks are to explore or mine energy, which can be completed by an ordinary person with 200 combat power. There are several SSS-level missions, which are just to eliminate Frieza, Kavira, etc. The Galactic Organization is really brave, Krillin complained in his heart. Klin browsed through the tasks, skipping low-level tasks directly. Klin looked for tasks with a strong purpose. He wanted to work for the King of the Galaxy. He would never think about it again in this life. Klin planned to find substances containing high energy. The planet is making a fortune by itself. The Galaxy Patrol Organization is worthy of being a veteran force. The mission information is quite rich and the time span is also very long. Some missions even last for thousands of years. Klin directly screened a few. First of all, they were located in remote areas and the invading forces had it is of a certain scale, and the reason why it was invaded is because the planet has abundant energy. With the strict screening step by step, the number of tasks became scarce. The first task that came to mind was the task from 200 years ago. Defeat the invasion of the Kurdish king. 1 million points. Mission difficulty. Level A. Klin couldn't help but sneer when he looked at this mission. 200 years later, there was no Metroid warrior to take on this mission. Everyone knew that the Kurdish royal family was not easy to mess with. The so-called Metroid warriors were just a force that held righteousness. Klin accepted this task. He originally planned to investigate, but now he just happened to earn some points along the way. Klin continued browsing and there was a task that caught Klin's eye. Investigate the reason why Plot Star turned into a Death Star in a short period of time. 1000 points. Mission difficulty. D level. In a short period of time, it turned into a Death Star. Klin couldn't help but rub his chin and thought, his eyes lost in memories, what on earth can make a planet turn into a Death Star? Could it be? Klin's eyes suddenly shone brightly and he was shocked. Spiritual tree fruit. In other words, the spiritual fruit can absorb the vitality of a planet in a short period of time. When the planet loses its vitality, it will naturally become a Death Star. According to legend, the fruit of the spirit tree condenses the life essence of the entire planet, which plays a huge role in nourishing the body. The most important thing is that it can restore the vitality of the human body. In the later stages of Dragon Ball, everyone is already old, not even the Saiyans. Exception, if I had spiritual fruits, wouldn't it be possible to keep my friends young forever? Krillin's own dimension has increased, and his lifespan has also increased accordingly. Krillin is not worried about his own lifespan. The youth of Saiyans is also quite long, but if he sees his partners getting older one by one, he will become his dying years would be a huge devastation to Klin's soul. If he had spiritual fruits, nothing would be a problem. Although Krillin is not a demon, he is definitely not an angel. When the time comes to plant a spiritual fruit tree on a planet under Frieza, no one will say that Krillin is a demon. On the contrary, they will only praise Krillin as a righteous person who protects the galaxy. Warrior. The mission was released a year ago. Plot Star is quite far away from the galaxy headquarters. Otherwise, with 1000 points, there wouldn't be many people there. That's right. This further confirms Clint's conjecture that Dales has not escaped. Now his strength should still be very weak. He had just obtained the seeds of the spiritual fruit. In order to avoid the Galactic Patrol and other forces, he had no choice but to go to a remote place to secretly plant spiritual fruit trees. Now that Clint knows that he will not give up the spiritual fruit, he has to look for it no matter what. Star Plot is on the edge of the Eastern Galaxy and in the east of the Straw Hat Galaxy. With the most advanced starship of the Milky Way organization, it still has to fly more than a mile. You first go to the Straw Hat Galaxy to find energy. If you have energy, you can do whatever you want. Clint only took on these two tasks, and the other tasks were really of little value compared to these two. Going to the Straw Hat Galaxy, Krillin requires a starship with excellent performance. His teleportation is still very flawed at the moment. He spends most of his time on the road and has no time to practice. Anyway, 10,000 points is about the same as picking up for free. Let me see what I can exchange for 10,000 points. Clint casually opened the points redemption list. Advanced Energy Ore, 100 points. Cultivator Seeds, 100, approximately 1,000 points. Prices vary depending on combat effectiveness. Starship, 2,000. Space Cannon, 10,000 points. Good guy, there are so many good things. Clint browsed. Clint pressed the purchase option, and then the bright icon of the starship became dim. The products on the points list will only become new after purchase. What you can buy depends on a bit of luck. I bought them all so that others can't buy anything. Haha, it seems a bit insufficient. I don't want the space cannon. I bought the rest. Clint is still curious about how the cultivator grows. Clint planned to be a bad guy to the end. The purchased products will be sent to the space base and can only be taken out with your personal Galaxy logo information. After Clint finished the purchase, he immediately felt refreshed and didn't feel any distress at all. Shada looked on in a daze, spending so much all at once. Shada couldn't believe it. This cost him 10 years of savings. Clint walked out. Shada was stunned in place. Clint came back with some laughter and bumped Shada with his arm. Let's go, why are you so dazed? Where to go? Shada asked stupidly, his eyes dull. Space base, pick up the starship and go to the Straw Hat Galaxy. Clint suddenly said seriously. Huh. Shada was so excited that he couldn't speak. Clint brought Shadahu to the space base. To put it bluntly, the space base is a logistics warehouse. The transactions of the commercial stars under the Galaxy King must go through the space base for the turnover of goods. Clint walked towards the staff and said, "Get the supplies." "What is it? Did you bring proof of purchase?" The staff said a little arrogantly. The department in charge of supplies has always had this kind of behavior. Shada, who was standing next to him, stepped forward and said, "I'm blinding you. This is the newly appointed Sheriff Clint, and he was appointed by the Galaxy King himself. Who gave you such courage as a small logistics worker? Rampant." After saying that, Shada quickly stood behind Clint, looking very similar. The staff obviously didn't believe it. The Galaxy King had just appointed Krillin as sheriff. This news was only known to the upper-level people and had not yet been announced. The lag in the news at the bottom obviously meant that they did not know yet. Clint didn't want to waste any time talking to these little shrimps, so he immediately threw his information at the staff member and looked at him indifferently. The staff looked at the message, and there were a few big words written at the top of the message, Chief Clint. The staff member immediately panicked. His hands were trembling a little and he said vaguely, "I have seen Mr. K. Clint." Krillin said calmly, "Pride and prejudice will only lead to your own destruction." Yes. Yes. The staff member's legs were shaking a little. "Lead the way." Clint suddenly shouted softly. The staff member was suddenly frightened and knelt on the ground, looking terrified. Where are you going?" Clint couldn't help but sweat. "Get the equipment." Clint came to the warehouse at the rear. Because Clint was a senior personnel, the supplies were placed in a separate warehouse. Clint looked at the spaceships in the warehouse and wondered why the astronauts' technology was so advanced that they didn't have tools like transformation capsules. He couldn't figure it out. "Shada, you go pilot the starship and get ready to go." Clint shouted to Shada, who was watching the scene. "Yes, Lord Clint," Shada said and quickly ran towards the spacecraft. Shadahui drove the spacecraft towards Clint. The spacecraft was silver-gray in color, with sharp wings like eagle wings. It beat like a phantom when flying. The spacecraft could be used as a short-distance aircraft or as an interstellar combat vehicle. Arms. Krillin entered the spacecraft. The interior of the spacecraft was filled with metallic elements and elements of alien technology. Let's go. Krillin said calmly towards Shada. Although Shada was stupid, he was not stupid. Shada controlled the spaceship skillfully. He saw the spacecraft slowly rise. When it rose to a certain height, it turned into a swish of light and flew towards the stars. Krillin looked at the morning star retreating behind him, and couldn't help but admire. The things in the galaxy headquarters are really good, much faster than the spaceships on Namek. After all, the galaxy organization is also a powerful force in the universe, and the performance of the spaceships it produces is still good. Quite remarkable. Shada used his hands to operate on the virtual page and said after a long time, "Okay, we have entered the automatic navigation mode. The radius of the black hole will be automatically calculated and passed by the black hole on the way." That's pretty good. Shada, he usually looks naive, but he knows a lot of things. Krillin said with a thumbs up. Shada touched his head and said with some embarrassment, "Basic operation, basic operation." As the spacecraft travels, Krillin will analyze the planets it passes and record the basic information of the planets. Krillin just took the opportunity to record some life planets suitable for docking for supplies. Krillin took out the gravity training room, and the journey of cultivation was like sailing against the current. If he did not advance, he would retreat. Since his qualifications were not as good as those of the outstanding people in the universe, Krillin always believed that hard work could make up for weakness. Shadahu, who was on the side, was shocked when he saw Krillin suddenly take out something similar to a small house. He knew a little about the space technology in the universe, but he was not up to this level. Krillin glanced at Shada and said with a smile, "I'm going to practice. If you are interested, come together and I will teach you 2 moves." From previous battles, Krillin discovered that Shada only had a combat power of 500, but his combat skills were a mess, no different from Sora's brute strength. Krillin walked into the gravity training room. Shadaji hesitated outside for a while. Master Krillin had a fighting strength of 50,000, but he was. Shadaji was a little scared, but thinking that he was about to return to his home planet, he would definitely have to fight against the evil forces. How can I save my tribe with some strength? Shada gritted his teeth and walked in bravely. The scene inside the gravity training room was a little different from what Shada had imagined. There was no horrific scene in his mind, but an empty training ground. Krillin saw Shadaki also coming in, and he felt a little appreciative. Shadaki was a compassionate cosmic being. Krillin pressed the 20x switch. Shadaki was in the gravity training room, and he had to set it up according to his combat power. Certainly. Shada looked around and couldn't understand why Master Krillin was training in such a simple place. Nothing special. Suddenly, the air around him sank. Shada felt that he could not move. His body was under tremendous pressure. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. He shouted, "What's wrong, Mr. Krillin? What happened?" Krillin smiled when he saw this. "Get used to it, this is 20 times the gravity." After that, Krillin stopped caring about Shada. When Shada got used to 20 times gravity, he taught him how to use chi. Krillin stretched his muscles, twisted his head and made a squeaking sound. Suddenly Klin's figure disappeared in a flash. His hands sent out qigong waves to chase him. Klin's figure moved faster and faster, constantly adjusting the flexibility of the body, looking for the feeling of fighting. Shada on the side looked dumbfounded with his mouth wide open. He could only feel the wind passing by in the open space in front of him but could not see anyone at all. You must know that this was still under 20 times the gravity, but he could not move at all. Shada, his eyes were filled with admiration for the stars, and he had more confidence in himself to save his mother planet. Time is like fine sand. Half a month later. Krillin sat aside and meditated. Shada was running in the open space beside him. His speed seemed not to be affected by gravity at all. Krillin opened his eyes and smiled. It's not bad. It's a lot better than half a month ago. It seems that Shada just lacks an opportunity to explode. Time. 756 AD. Name. Shada. Age. 250 years old. Race. Earthling. Combat strength. 750. Potential. 200,000. With a potential of 200,000, it seems that he can become a powerful figure in the Straw Hat Galaxy in the future. Krillin stood up and walked towards Shada. Lord Klin. Shadahu said respectfully when he saw Klin coming. Close your eyes, feel every trace of energy in your body, and try to keep your breathing consistent with the surge of energy. Klin taught slowly. Shada looked happy when he heard Klin's words. Master Klin is going to teach you martial arts. Shada listened carefully, slowly closed his eyes, and did what Klin said. Shadaji felt his own energy, but he still couldn't resonate with it. He couldn't help showing a look of horror on his face. Am I too stupid? Seeing this, Klin said slowly to the side. Practice should be done step by step, don't do it too hastily. Please slowly understand what I just said. Energy is like a lake. A drop of dew dripping onto the lake will stir up ripples. The waves of water will slowly spread out from the middle to all sides. Now you are the center, and the energy is in your body. Inspiring energy does not need a violent breath, but needs to be as long and lasting as water. Klin once again imparted his experience to Shadahu. Shada seemed to be thoughtful. As the center of energy, I am like a black hole in the universe. Nothing can escape the shackles of a black hole, not even light. However, when the black hole absorption reaches a certain level, he will emit particles uniformly into the universe. Is this the use of energy? Shadahu happily shouted. I understand. I understand. After saying that, he closed his eyes and saw a faint layer of gauze on Shadahu's body, which was anger. Klin was also a little surprised. Have I met the son of the plane? How can I understand it so quickly after just a little bit of knowledge? It seems that the strong-looking cosmonauts are not all parallel imports. In order to take care of Shada's training, Krillin also turned on 100 times the gravity. Let the strength increase slowly. A loss of 10,000 or 20,000 will not affect the overall situation. If you can't beat Frieza's toes, you still can't beat him. Klin looked at Shada, who was concentrating on his cultivation, and thought mischievously, what I owe now will definitely be repaid in the future. How to repay it specifically? I can just use the immortal stone to offset the debt. Klin looked at his current attributes. Time: 756 AD. Name: Klin. Age: 21 years old. Race: Earthling. Dimension: First level dimension, equivalent to Cat Immortal. Combat strength: 375,000. Next level limit: 5 million. Potential: 4.635 million. Cultivation speed: light speed. It's okay, there are still about 770 fairy beans left, but the energy is still not enough. There is a long way to go before he becomes a VIP boss. Think about it, if you drive a VIP, your combat power will increase. Wouldn't it be great to think about it? Even if you sleep for a year, you can probably surpass Frieza. Pa, I'm thinking nonsense again. Time flies like water, another half-month has passed, and the two of them have adjusted themselves. Shada was a little excited. He was really back after so many years. Shada pointed at the galaxy in front of him and shouted, that is the Straw Hat Galaxy. Klin replied calmly, don't get excited, I saw it. The Sombrero Galaxy is a spiral galaxy. Viewed from 1,000 light-years away, the Sombrero Galaxy looks like a special hat. The outermost circle of stars outlines the top of the hat. The bright core protrudes from the center and is surrounded by darker stars. Dust lanes surround. Klin said seriously to Shada, enter the Straw Hat Galaxy, quickly find an inanimate planet to stop at, and don't get too close to the Earth. Why? Shada asked with a questioning expression. You're really brainless. Planet Earth is now under the control of the Kurdish king. We don't know the specific situation of planet Earth right now. Let's just go in and wait for death. Klin said as he looked at Shadahu with hatred. Klin thought about a very smart child, whose IQ was really worrying. Oh. Shadaji showed an expression of sudden realization, then lowered his head and looked for information about the remote planet on the virtual screen. Lord Klin, there is a remote planet 500 light-years away from the Tuduta star. It should meet your goals. This is basic information. Shada pointed at the information on the virtual screen and said seriously. Klin looked at the information on the virtual screen in front of him. This was an unnamed planet. The data showed that it was a white dwarf left over from a supernova explosion. It had no atmosphere and an extremely harsh environment. It's him, Shada landed on this planet. Yes, Master Klin. After saying this, Shada entered pilot mode. Because this planet has no atmosphere, the landing of the spacecraft was quite smooth. Boom. The spacecraft has landed on the nameless star. He had his own considerations when he landed in Klin. In a galaxy, his teleportation can be useful. If he encounters a strong enemy, he can escape in time with the idiot Shada. What should we do now? How can we get there? Shada asked with some confusion. Klin smiled mysteriously. Get ready, you'll know soon. Colin took a box of portable capsules, which contained some daily necessities, and of course fairy beans were also in it. Hold on tight, you'll be in trouble if you lose your grip later and fall into the space vortex. Klin looked at the nervous Shada and couldn't help teasing him. After hearing this, Shada seemed a little more frightened. He grabbed Klin's arm tightly with his hand, as if he would not let go. I'm just kidding you, don't be so nervous. You're just going home. Let's go. After saying that, Klin and Shada disappeared from the spot as soon as Klin started. 500 light-years away, two figures suddenly appeared on a yellowing planet. Klin looked at the desolate scene in front of him. The earthly planet was somewhat similar to the Gobi Desert in his previous life. Shada, who seemed to be still a little surprised by what had just happened, but then he saw the scene he had dreamed about day and night, coarse gravel, strange-shaped Gobi stones, and a Fedra grass swaying in the yellow wind. Shada, who couldn't help but shed tears. It was the scene in his dream. After more than 200 years, he finally came back. At this scene, Shada, who could not help but howl. Shada, who, I'm back. Klin blasted Shada's head with a hammer. What are you screaming about? We'll be exposed later. Let's see if I can't kill you. It is always right to be cautious in unfamiliar places. You will win in the end if you stay there. Shada shrank his head and smiled awkwardly. I came home all of a sudden, and I couldn't hold it back for a while. Klin just gave a brief reminder that cosmic people cannot sense anger. In other words, if Klin and Shada don't take the initiative to expose them, cosmic people will not be able to discover them passively. Klin slowly closed his eyes and slowly felt the breath of the cosmic people on this planet. After a long time, Klin opened his eyes and smiled mysteriously. The highest combat power on this planet is about 10,000, so there is no danger. How did Master Klin know? Shada asked Klin again. Close your eyes and try to sense the breath. Klin said angrily. Yes, Master Klin. Shada quickly closed his eyes and felt the breath. Shada, who now has a fighting strength of 1,000, which is considered a small group of combatants in the universe. Shada, whose breath spreads from the whole body to the surroundings. Shada, who suddenly gasps for breath, with a look of horror in his eyes. His expression, a few drops of sweat on his forehead, and the aura of that 10,000-strong spaceman weighed him down like a mountain, making it hard for him to breathe. Klin smiled slightly when he saw this. Hurry up and rescue your people. Shada looked grateful and nodded fiercely to Klin. 10,000 miles to the southeast, there is an old miner with piles of black stones. A group of 2-meter-tall people are walking hard in the field. Their 2-meter-tall bodies look dark and thin. In addition to completing a certain amount of work every day, after working hard, there was no remaining energy for rebellion. The eyes of the miners looked dull and dull. Not feeding slaves seems to be a common tactic of every slave owner. Because they don't have enough to eat, slaves think more about how to eat a little more every day. How can they think about escaping when their minds are full of this thought? Woolen cloth. When Klin saw the scene in front of him, he sighed slightly. The law of the jungle preys on the strong. This is called a cosmic slave in the universe. Shada looked at his tribe, his eyes a little red. In his memory, the exploitation of the people in the universe was far from serious at the beginning. Could it be that his escape had implicated his tribe? Shada felt regretful in his heart. Shada looked at Klin, as if asking if he could take action. Klin nodded seriously towards Shada. Upon seeing this, Shadaji jumped towards the center of the mine. Klin then added sternly, teach them a lesson. Klin had no intention of taking action now. The miners guarding the miners were just some 500-year-old miscellaneous hair. It was just a test of Shada's cultivation in the past month. A miner was walking hard, and suddenly a figure landed next to him. The old man looked up, but looking up seemed to have exhausted the last of his strength. The old man could no longer hold on and fell back. Shadahu quickly moved forward to support the old man, took out the water in his arms and fed the old man a little. The old man slowly opened his eyes, which seemed a little cloudy. Looking at the tribesmen in front of him, the old man was a little surprised and asked, "Who are you?" "I am Shadahu, a member of your tribe. I am here to rescue you today," Shadahu said with some pain. "Stupid kid. The strength of these invading forces is too strong. 100 years ago, King Tuj led us to stand up, and his bodyguards defeated the invaders, but when we were immersed in the joy of peace, an even more evil force came, and in just one moment, King Tugata's bodyguards were wiped out, and then the cosmic people killed King Tugata and hung the king's head on the pillar of Tugata." The old man seemed to recall the scene of that day again and began to tremble uncontrollably. "It doesn't matter, I am also a strong warrior now," Shada said confidently, patting his chest. In fact, Shada was full of confidence in Klin. "You don't understand the strength of that evil force at all. The personal guards of King Tugupa are very powerful, but they lost their lives in vain in front of those cosmic beings without even taking a single breath. Children, please listen to me and run for your life. Our planet cannot be destroyed. It depends on you to continue the civilization of planet Earth. Run away quickly," the old man said tremblingly. The old man seemed to suddenly think of something and said excitedly, "Yes, go to the Galaxy Organization. The Galaxy Organization maintains the peace of the universe. The Galaxy Organization will definitely be able to rescue us." The old man grabbed Shada's hand and kept repeating. Shada smiled bitterly in his heart. "I have been at the Galaxy headquarters for more than 100 years. 200 years ago, King Tugata asked for help from the Galaxy headquarters, but the Galaxy headquarters did not dare to provoke the huge power of the Kurdish king's family. As time went by, the news of asking for help finally disappeared. Klin is now the police chief of the Galaxy headquarters. Shada Wei does not know Klin's true thoughts and thinks that Lord Klin has also defected to the Galaxy organization. Klin is now the strong support of the Galaxy headquarters. In fact, Klin only used the Galaxy organization as a springboard. In order to better collect information, he temporarily joined the Galaxy organization and worked for the Galaxy King. This was impossible in this life. This time, the Galaxy headquarters came to rescue us. Master Klin is a real strong man, but even the Galaxy King's personal guards are not as good as Master Klin. Shada explained to the frightened old man. "Really?" the old man asked in disbelief. "It's true, Master Klin is watching us from a distance." After saying that, Shada looked in Klin's direction. The old man burst into tears. Someone from the Galaxy headquarters really came, and the old man seemed to see hope again. The old man's cry attracted the guardian Cosmic Man. The Cosmic Man came here and saw Shada shouting loudly, "Who is it?" "The person who wants your life." After saying that, Shada rushed towards the Cosmic Man, condensed his energy into his fist and blasted at the Cosmic Man. The combat power of the spaceman is about 300. Faced with 1000 combat power, Shada Wei had no time to react and was knocked away. The spaceman fell to the ground, his neck twisted and his breath was cut off. Shada said quickly towards the old man, "Find the other tribesmen quickly, and then those evil forces will kill the tribesmen in a hurry." In fact, Shadahu's worries are reasonable, but Klin is here, and with Klin's 380,000 combat power, the cosmic people have no chance to take action. Klin quite agrees with Shadahu's approach. This time Shada is never too confused. In the open field in front, there are 100,000 of our tribe. The old man came and spoke much more energetically. Shada closed his eyes and slowly sensed the aura of his tribe, but there were many weak auras in front of him. Shada turned towards the old man with his face shining brightly and said, "Let's go." Shadahu flew over with the old man. Shadahu did not dare to leave the old man here alone. The place where the clan members gathered was relatively safer. The old man continued, "Since the uprising of King Tugata 100 years ago, those cosmic people have separated us individually and divided us into 10 slave areas. In front of it is the number 5 slave area. Our tribe originally had 600 slaves. The population is 1 million, but there have been heavy casualties in recent years, and those cosmic beings have spread the news that there is a shortage of manpower, and now it may be less than 2 million. The old man said and began to cry bitterly. Shada's eyes were filled with blood and he gritted his teeth. "Intruder, cannot be forgiven. Cannot be forgiven." A population of 6 million is still a relatively large race in the universe. It is not like Earth, which has a population of several billion. You must know that the Saiyans on planet Vegeta only have a total of more than 1,100,000 people in the mining area are busy working. There are old people and children. They all carry on their shoulders many times more ore than themselves. No one, no matter adults or children, can stand up straight. The spaceman beside them does not. They were too vigilant. The crackdown 100 years ago had already scared them out of their wits. Shada put the old man on the ground and walked slowly towards the center of the mine. The further inside he went, the more angry Shada became. The rickety children, the pale-faced tribesmen, these invasions, the sin is unpardonable. As Shadahu walked inward, Shadahu's tribe slowly noticed this, alternative tribesmen, but they did not make a sound and just looked at him indifferently. Suddenly, a weak girl was overwhelmed and fell down. Everyone wanted to go forward, but they didn't dare. Shada quickly walked forward, helped the petite girl up, looked at her with caring eyes and said, "What's your name? Does it hurt from the fall?" The girl was a little dazed, but there was still a trace of brilliance in her beautiful big eyes. My name is Avila, big brother, who are you?" The girl stood up slowly and looked at Shada with some fear. Mao. Shada looked at Avila and thought of his childhood. At that time, the planet Earth had not been invaded. He was with his parents and there were many friends around him. How happy he was at that time. These hateful cosmic people left behind come down and be buried with you. Someone boldly walked towards Shadahu, who seemed to be Avila's parents. A thin man walked over to protect Avila, looking at the people of the same tribe in front of him with some fear. Shadahu tried his best to show a kind smile. "Uncle, I don't mean any harm. I came back to save my people." The cosmonaut saw the people below gathered together, so he walked over and shouted, "What are you doing? Is your skin itchy again?" When everyone heard that the cosmonauts were coming, they quickly dispersed. Avila's father grabbed Shadar and tried to drag Shadar into the crowd to save Shada's life. Shadahu cast a reassuring look at Avila's father and said kindly to Avila, "Avila, step back and retreat into the crowd." The cosmonauts had already arrived in front of everyone, and everyone looked very scared. The cosmonauts looked at Shada and realized that he was from the miners. The other miners had pale faces with years of fatigue always hanging on their faces, but Shada was full of energy. The cosmonaut shouted loudly at Shada again, "Who are you?" Shada, who slowly walked out of the crowd, walked step by step in front of the cosmic man, and said with a slow expression, "You heard me clearly." After saying this, Shadahu suddenly shouted, They are the people from Tugota who escaped 200 years ago. I am Shadahu who came back to save his home planet." After saying that, Shadahu took up his whole body's aura and blasted towards the cosmic man. The difference in strength was huge, plus Shadahu's sudden attack, it was impossible for the cosmic man to withstand it. The cosmic man was knocked away. But Shadahu still seemed to be dissatisfied, and then a wave of Qigong hit the cosmic man, and then the cosmic man turned into powder. It seemed that the battle was over before Shada's tribe saw what happened. Everyone was a little scared. The battle 100 years ago was still fresh in their memories. The revenge of the evil forces was really terrible. Avila stepped forward and grabbed Shada's hand. His eyes flashed with hope. "Big brother. Are you here to save us?" Quote. Shada looked at the girl who only reached his shoulders fondly and said, "No one can bully us anymore." The noise of Shada's fighting alerted more cosmonauts. Shada looked at the cosmonauts flying out and quickly shouted to the people behind him, "Find a place to hide, I will take care of them." As he said this, Shada gathered energy in his hand and blasted it towards a spaceman. A yellow light flashed, and the spaceman screamed and plunged towards the ground. Many cosmonauts flew in the direction of Shadahu. Behind Shadahu was his own tribe. In order to avoid the battle from affecting his tribe, Shadahu quickly attacked the cosmonauts in front. Hundreds of cosmonauts with combat power seemed like small fish in front of Shadahu. Shadahu released continuous Qigong waves towards the cosmonauts, and in a moment, all the cosmonauts in front fell down. Shadahu didn't dare to be careless. Shadahu had already felt a few cosmic beings whose aura was no less than his own, rushing towards him. He had no choice but to find a place to hide. Shadahu turned towards the people behind him. The tribesmen shouted, "Hurry and find a place to hide." Don't come out until the battle is over. When Shadahu's tribe heard Shadahu's words, they hid a little faster. Shada looked at the tribesmen leaving one after another and flew towards the space people whose aura was not weaker than his without thinking much. He wanted to kill them. The three astronauts pressed the detector while traveling and found that the guarding astronauts' data had disappeared. Knowing that an accident had occurred in the mine, they flew towards the mine a little faster. An astronaut with a combat power of about 900 suddenly he felt a qigong wave coming toward him, but it was too fast to dodge, so he blocked his vital parts with his hands. With a sound of boom, the cosmic man was hit, and Shada was seen standing on the rock in the distance with his hands together in a posture of releasing qigong waves towards the cosmonaut. Whoosh! Shada gasped. Rough. White smoke came out of the spaceman's body. When the smoke dissipated, the spaceman looked a little embarrassed. An unknown disgusting liquid flowed from the corner of his mouth. His body was slightly damaged. The spaceman looked in the direction of Shada. With a ferocious expression on his face, he shouted, "I'm going to kill you." A total of 3 spacemen landed in the direction of Shadahu. One of the Gundam spacemen pressed the detector to check Shadahu's combat power, and then laughed loudly. No wonder the combat power of 700. All the cosmonauts who were guarding were killed, and looking at Shada's characteristics, there was even a fish from the earthly planet that slipped through the net. The evil cosmonauts were not angry because the cosmonauts in the mine were killed. There were just as many subordinates as there were bosses. The frozen demon family had always been cruel and ruthless, and their subordinates naturally inherited their nature perfectly. The 3 cosmonauts looked at Shadahu with their eyes like a cat playing with a mouse. There were 3 people on his side, but Shadahu was alone. He had just explored Shadahu's combat power, and he was the weakest among the 3. Everyone in the universe has a combat power of 900, and the strongest combat power even reaches 1200. There is no need to worry when victory is guaranteed. The tall cosmonaut spoke. You stupid thing, you didn't find a place to survive and survive, but you rushed out to die. You just have to stretch your muscles and bones, so I can send you to see the king of the earthy planet as soon as possible. The medium-sized cosmonaut next to him laughed loudly and cooperated tacitly with his boss's performance, while the cosmonaut with 900 combat power looked at Shada fiercely. How dare this little shrimp attack him? He was also injured, which was simply a shame and a shame. The tall spaceman was getting into a fighting stance, preparing to attack Shada. The medium-sized spaceman planned to watch the show from the side and had no intention of taking action. Boss Shaz, let me do it. I want to kill this little myself. Suddenly the cosmonaut with a combat power of 900 took a step forward and said to the tall cosmonaut. Shaz glanced at his embarrassed men and nodded. 900 versus 700, his men could not lose. Shada looked at the cosmonaut whom he had sneak attacked walking toward him, and couldn't help but smile. The plan was successful. Klin, who was looking at the battlefield from a distance, couldn't help but smile. What a cunning thing. He usually looks quite honest, but he is quite good at tricking people. Shada Ji has been practicing in the gravity training room for so long. Not only has his combat power increased, Shada Ji's speed has also increased a lot in the gravity environment. The speed is at least twice the same combat power. Just like Goku, he has experienced 100 after doubling the gravity, the speed increased to the extreme. Shadahu was extremely fast and rushed to the rocks in advance to hide. Shadahu sensed that there were 3 groups with fighting power that were no less than his own. Although he had been guided by Master Klin, he still had no chance of winning, so he had to first find a way to kill the weakest among them, and you might still be able to win one-on-one. In this way, the spaceman with 900 combat power is the best target for Shada's sneak attack. He will definitely be angry when he is attacked by him. In addition, he has concealed his aura, making them mistakenly think that he only has 700 combat power. In fact, he has only 700 combat power. But he has a combat power of 1000. Klin looked at the spaceman who came forward and knew that this spaceman was probably going to finish his game immediately. Shada Ji's sneak attack just now had injured him. The spaceman's aura had dropped a lot, and now he could only exert 800 with a combat power of 1000. It shouldn't be a problem for Shada Ji, who has a combat power of 1000, to explode with all his strength and kill him instantly. The cosmic man with 900 combat power walked towards Shadahu, but Shadahu did not move, and was secretly accumulating his own aura. You little fool, you dare to sneak up on me. You really don't know how to live or die. Don't worry, I won't let you die so easily. The spaceman looked at Shada with vicious eyes and shouted. Shadahu still didn't speak. The spaceman thought that Shadahu was frightened by his momentum, so he laughed at the side. Suddenly, Shada revealed a mysterious smiling face, with 2 rows of white teeth arranged neatly. The cosmonaut's laughter stopped abruptly, and he looked at Shada strangely. Shada suddenly jumped up high, put his hands on his forehead, and shouted at the 2 spacemen outside the battlefield, Sun Fist. Shada's sudden jump attracted the attention of the cosmonauts outside the battlefield. The 2 cosmonauts stared directly at Shada. Ah! My eyes! The 2 cosmonauts covered their eyes and squatted on the ground in pain, howling loudly. Seeing this, Clint also smiled softly. That's a good idea. Hee, surprise always works every time. Seeing that the plan was successful, Shada was happy in his heart, but he did not relax. The cosmonaut with 900 combat power was still in a daze. Just now he saw a flash of white light and heard the boss's howl. Shada's Sun Fist was not released towards the cosmonauts he was fighting with. It made sense to choose to release it on the 2 cosmonauts outside the battlefield. Shada's was not sure that he could successfully kill those 2 cosmonauts before they came to their aid. The cosmonaut with 900 combat power had no choice but to interfere with the 2 of them, making them unable to support him, so that he could speed up the killing of the cosmonaut who was fighting against him. Shada suddenly changed direction and accelerated towards the Cosmic Man. The Cosmonian was unprepared. Shada's heavy punch hit the Cosmic Man's abdomen. The Cosmonian was in pain and opened his mouth. He opened his mouth wide and spit out unknown liquid, with a ferocious and painful expression. Shada's wind-like offensive did not stop. He kicked sideways and kicked the spaceman on the neck. The spaceman was knocked away. Shada followed up with a burst of anger. Yeah. Can't you see? Ching's fist hit the Cosmic Man, and Shadaji gathered a heavy punch and hit the Cosmic Man on the head. The spaceman's eyes turned white and he stuck out his tongue. At this time, he had lost consciousness and flew backwards in the distance. Shada jumped back a step, put his hands together and shouted loudly, Ha! A powerful Qigong wave it shot out from the hand and hit the Cosmic Man. The powerful power of the Qigong pushed the Cosmic Man far away. With a loud bang, the Cosmic Man with 900 combat power was blown into a pile of flesh, foam. Shada looked at the thick smoke in the distance. He smiled slightly and breathed heavily. The attack just now had already unleashed all his breath. Shada could no longer feel the Cosmic Man's breath. It seems that his sneak attack was successful. Shada jumped far away and quickly adjusted his breath before the 2 cosmonauts could react. After a moment, the 2 cosmonauts opened their eyes and looked at the calm battlefield ahead. Shaz asked strangely, where did Ram go? Shaz didn't see Ram's figure. He habitually said, pressing the detector next to his ear, beep beep beep. The detector made a sound, but it startled Shaz, who shouted, What? Ram is dead. Boss, what are you talking about? Ram is dead. How is it possible? How could he die in such a short time? Besides, Ram's combat power is higher than that kid. The medium-sized spaceman was a little uncomfortable, asked believingly. Both of them thought there was something wrong with the detector. They pressed the detector at the same time, but the information fed back by the detector was consistent. The information about Ram completely disappeared. The 2 were afraid to explore Shada's combat power again. Didi. Shada. Combat power 650. Shaz couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when he saw the combat power of 650. It seemed that the detector was not broken. The kid's combat power in the previous battle had become weaker. I don't know how it happened. Ram actually died in his hands. It must be because Ram was used to enjoying himself and his combat effectiveness dropped, so he was successfully attacked by that kid. The medium-sized cosmonaut glanced at Shaz and asked, what will the boss do next? Shaz said fiercely, Billy. Kill that guy in one piece. The 2 pressed the detector again, trying to find Shada's location. Billy shouted loudly, Boss, he is behind that rock. Then what are you waiting for? Kill him. After saying that, Shaz quickly flew towards Shada. Shada clung to the rock, feeling the breath of the 2 of them. The top of his head passed by, and Shada quickly kicked out towards Shaz's chin. Shaz was kicked without paying attention, and his whole body flew upwards. Shadaji saw that he had succeeded in the sneak attack and quickly retreated. Shadaji knew that it would be difficult to win against them head-on, but his speed was far superior to the two of them. This was his biggest advantage. Shaz twisted around and stopped in the air, wiped his mouth and said angrily. At this time, Billy rushed to the boss's side and asked, "How is the boss?" Shaz looked at Shada who was moving nimbly and said, "Outflank him from left to right. His speed is really too fast." "Yes, boss." The two of them outflanked Shada. When Shada saw that the two were trying to outflank him, he quickly stepped back. If he was flanked by them, it would be a long time. Shada turned to the distance. Looking over, there happens to be a big rock. Maybe I can fight them head-on with my back against the rock. When Shada thought of this, he speeded up and flew towards the rocks ahead. Although Klin did not directly participate in the war, Klin always paid attention to the battlefield. It was impossible for Klin's 380,000 combat power to cause an accident. Klin watched Shadahu fly towards the big rock, and immediately guessed Shadahu's thoughts, and his evaluation of Shadahu was a little higher in his heart. Sure enough, actual combat is the one who trains people. Watching the battle from the sidelines, I also had some thoughts. If I were in the middle of a battle, could I deal with the enemy as calmly as Shadahu? You must know that bystanders are clear, and they can naturally guess the tactics of both sides. Shada flew behind the rock and turned around to face the two spacemen. When the two cosmonauts saw that Shada was unable to retreat, they shouted with some joy, "Run! If you have the ability, you are running." However, the two of them spoke breathlessly. Shadahu made a fighting posture, and the two cosmonauts did not hesitate and attacked Shadahu together. Close combat, back and forth, the two spacemen's combat effectiveness is similar to Shada's, and even Shaz's combat effectiveness is 200 higher than Shada's. Soon Shada's entered a defensive state, protecting his own vital parts. The two cosmonauts couldn't help but be overjoyed when they saw that Shada was only defensive. Their offensive momentum increased a bit. Shada was accidentally punched in the abdomen by Shaz. There was a flaw in the entire defense and he was knocked away. Go out, Todoroki, his body is stuck tightly in the big rock, unable to move for the time being. Shaz and Billy looked at each other, nodded to each other, and the two of them worked together to send out a powerful Qigong wave towards Shada. Seeing this, Shada felt helpless in his heart. Sure enough, I am still too much, now I am going to finish. He couldn't help shouting, "Master Klin, help." Seeing this, Klin smiled slightly, "That won't work." Sure enough, the gap in combat effectiveness is still difficult to make up. Shada's defense just now was also messy. Facing such a desperate attack is the best defense. Klin didn't pause. He fired out a Qigong with his left hand and pushed back the Qigong of the two people. When the two cosmonauts saw that their energy bombs were shot back, their faces became shocked. Is there anyone else? Shaz quickly began to use a detector to detect, but Klin hid his aura to a large extent. Yes, Shaz only detected a life energy behind him, but not the specific combat power. The detector is an old model and is not that advanced now. It's just that the two of them were a little scared. It was a Qigong wave created by the two of them working together. To be beaten back so easily, that person's strength must have been 2000. Now Shaz was a little hesitant. Shadaji slowly came down from the rock. He was overjoyed when he saw the Qigong wave just now. Master Klin is really unfathomable. Shada once again put on a fighting stance and shouted at the two spacemen, "Hey! Come again!" Before the two of them could answer, Shada flew towards the two of them at high speed. Shada changed the rules of the previous battle and started a desperate attack. Shaz and Billy were a little scared and did not dare to use all their strength this time. If the Qigong wave appears again behind him during the battle with Shadahu, it will be over. One attacked with full strength, while the two fought timidly. The battle was naturally divided. For a while, Shadaji had the advantage, and the two were beaten and retreated. Although Shadahu had gained an offensive advantage, it was difficult to win in a short period of time. Moreover, as the attacker, his physical strength must be consumed faster than the two of them. Shadahu was a little anxious. Shadahu looked at Billy's movements from time to time. Looking for his own flaw, he couldn't help but have a bold idea in his heart. Shada was attacking the two of them forcefully. Suddenly, Shada showed a feeling of exhaustion. Seeing this, Billy smiled inwardly. After so many battles, my physical strength can't hold it anymore. Billy suddenly attacked. The speed increased a bit. When Shaz saw Billy launching a fierce attack, he couldn't keep up. The battlefield between the three of them was immediately divided because Billy grabbed the right to attack and left Shaz behind. Now he suddenly became Shada. The battlefield between G and Billy. Seeing this, Shadahu knew that the opportunity had come. If Shaz followed up later, there would be no such good opportunity. Shadahu shouted loudly, and the energy in his body gathered again. One hand was speeding up the attack, and the other was concentrating. While practicing Qigong, Shada suddenly hit Billy with his concentrated Qigong hand. Because the distance was too close, Billy wanted to send out energy to bounce back, but it was too late. As soon as there was a wave of energy in his hand, Shada the Qigong wave had already hit his eyes. Shaz, who was behind, saw the Qigong wave hitting Billy and shouted, "No!" He quickly gathered a Qi bomb from his hand and hit Shada. Boom! The Qigong wave passed through Billy's head, leaving only a sizzling sound on his neck. This was the sound of flesh and blood being burned by the Qigong wave. Shadahu saw Shaz's Qigong wave coming towards him, and thought that he couldn't dodge it this time, so he put his hands on his chest, preparing to resist the wave, but saw that the Qigong wave arrived in front of him. Shada closed his eyes and began to howl. Ah! Oh! Oh my god! Thanks for watching.